You both talk about, like, when you talk about getting to the top, what would you say is, looking back now, the thing that was the hardest to overcome, or the one thing, like, Clayton, you talked about it, like any struggles are now, it almost makes it sweeter, right? What is the it for both of you?
I had to kind of figure out what I was going to be and rise above what was happening in country music at the time, which was that they weren't letting new artists in when I came out. When I was new, a new artist had not had a number one song or topped a chart, or really broken out in about 4 or 5 years. They just kept trying to put new artists out in the late '90s, early 2000s, and they just kept failing. And like artists would go out and they'd have a lot of momentum, and then a song would get to maybe, I guess, bars on the door somehow. And in my case, I got I wrote a song called "He Didn't Have to Be," which ended up being
Oh, yeah.
like setting the woods on fire at the time. And it was not meant to be a single. It was the story of my friend from college and him adopting a kid, and um, all this. And we wrote it very personally for them. And the next thing you know, there it goes. And it was a big lesson in, oh man, I guess if you're just being truthful, you're going to get a lot farther than trying to sort of overthink what a hit would be. And it got me through the door, and it's the only reason I'm talking to you today, I think. And that's what I had to overcome. Is I lucked out. I really, it was lucky that that was my song that got me through, or I don't know if I'd still be here.
Wow, that's a great story. I mean, and you hear that in sports all the time. I feel like I hear that week in and week out with football players, especially young guys that come in and they'll say, I realized that I didn't have to press, that it was really just sticking to who I am and what I could do. It's fascinating. What about you, Clayton?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I wouldn't have even talked about it before, winning a World Series because it was just too hard. But, I think every year I've been in the playoffs now since 2013. Every single year I've been in the playoffs, and my first 2 years as well, 2008 and 2009. So I've basically been in the playoffs 10 out of my 13 years, and won one World Series. And before this year, it would have just been like, how can you not get over the hump? And every year was a different reason, but it ultimately ended with me on the mound, most of them. And so it's just like, it's just hard. Winning the World Series is hard. And then every year, when you're on a team as good as the Dodgers are, the pressure mounts because they expect to win. And so if you have those failures, kind of saddled on your back as you go, it just kind of gets harder and harder and harder. And so, that's what I talked about when I had that weight lifted, just to be able to finally do it and overcome it, and get to do that. And just so happy for everybody that has stuck with it, has stuck with me, has stuck with our team. It's just been, like I said, it made it a little bit sweeter, I think.